Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Chiseled. And why do we call it Chiseled? Because we're all a work in progress. I'm your host, Rob Commodari. I'm also the author of the book Better Than You Think and co-author of the book Next Level Your Life. So today we have Fazeena Haniff. I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Fazeena Haniff, all the way from Toronto, Canada. So we have a Canadian with us today. She's she does communication and leadership coaching, and she's been doing that for about 7 years or so. And we're going to have a great conversation today. I'm looking forward to it. Fazeena, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rob. I'm so excited to be here, all the way from Canada, eh? That's our thing,
Hey,
right?
hey, I forgot to do that. Hey,
Yeah, I got you
does that
covered.
make
Don't worry.
does that make you a hockey fan at all?
You know what? Yeah, I mean, I love hockey. I've watched hockey since I was a kid, and love watching, the U.S. and Canada games in the Olympics, for example. It's a really great rivalry, a lot of fun that we have watching it.
Yeah, I love playoff hockey and I love Olympic hockey. I love watching those two.
Yeah. Oh yeah, playoff hockey is awesome.
It's
I
good
mean,
stuff.
I'm from Toronto. The Leafs are not the best. They're also not the most liked around the league. So,
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, but why is that? Why are they not? Because they're Canadian?
I think there's just I don't know. Well, first of all, they don't win very well. Like they don't do perform very well in the playoffs. So, there's just like this running joke around. You're gonna get your heart broken if you watch play. So a while ago, when we had a really disappointing loss to Boston in one of the playoff rounds, very first playoff round, we were winning by like 3 goals, and then we ended up losing the game in the last like 2 minutes. And I vowed from that moment that I was going to detach myself from this team and not go all heart in anymore. So I watch playoffs when it's on, but I don't invest as
There
much
you
as
go.
I used to. Yeah.
Were you one of those people who used to yell at the TV?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's hard because I'm a very competitive guy and I love sports. I love my baseball, my college basketball, the Maryland Terps, and I love my football. And I used to stand in front of that TV, pace back and forth, and I'd yell at a bad play. But I've gotten through that. I do much better. Like if it was a tough loss, it would stick with me for about a week or two, and now I can let it go within an hour.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Once you get to that point, you've hit another level of like spirituality when it comes to sports.
Yeah, spirituality and maturity.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's great. So, Rosita, tell us a little bit about yourself. We'd love to hear a little about yourself and share with us another story you got for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I was born and raised in Toronto. I've been here my entire life. I love it. It's a very diverse place. And communication is something that I've loved my entire life. It was always very easy for me to connect with people of all backgrounds and all ages ever since I was a child. So I knew very early on that I was going to have a career in communications, and I did in public relations and corporate communications from right out of school, and worked in parts of the private sector, mainly in the public sector. And then realized that there was something missing, and I felt called. Right, I felt called to something greater. I didn't quite know what that was, but I felt very intuitively that it was time for me to leave my job. And lo and behold, it just sort of turned out that things in the organization started to change at the same time that I had that feeling. And the conditions became right for me to leave, and I did. And that led to sort of a soul journey of what I wanted to do professionally. And it still was communication. And I started my business back in 2016. It's gone through some iterations and things that um, you know, um, life experiences that have informed it. And it's evolved into communication still, and also leadership coaching and training, which is what I do now.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. So, you said you had a calling. Now, a lot of people hear that, feel that, sense that in different ways. Was it did you hear a voice? Did you have a vision? Did you just feel this sensation like, hey, I'm supposed to go do this? What was that like?
It was very much a strong feeling of intuition, just something I could not deny. And I just knew, like, I needed to move on. I knew I couldn't have the level of impact I wanted to have in the world or in my community, through my work, by staying in the public service job I was working in. That was very much, bogged down in red tape and all these rules. And so I knew that if I really wanted to, uh, reach my potential and have that impact I wanted to have, I needed to leave where I was. And I didn't know what it looked like. So I was going on faith and trusting that I, like, all of me knew that it was going to work out somehow, and I had to trust that. And I got a nice piece of change when I left that job that helped me through that process of figuring out what the next steps were going to be. And I don't regret looking back. Being an entrepreneur is a really hard thing that no one really tells you the what that experience is going to be like, and how all of the insecurities you have are going to come to you, and you're going to have to battle those things. There's all these challenges that you're going to have to face in terms of learning what it means to actually have a business, when you're in a 9 to 5 or a job, which, I loved when I was in that job, by the way. I had a very specialized role. I didn't have to think about accounting. I didn't have to think about marketing. I didn't have to think about admin work. Like, I had that one specific role, but entrepreneurship is just, it causes you to face yourself.
Yes, it does, and there's a challenge, and there, like you said there's a level of faith there, and you knew you had that intuition that you knew it was calling you. But like I've said before, like the voice is always talking to you, whatever it is, that vibe or that pull or whatever you call it, right? It's always talking to you. Either you don't hear it, you hear it, you ignore it, you hear it and you got one foot in, or you hear it, you go all in, right?
Yes.
And it's hard. It's hard to go all in, isn't it?
It's very hard to go all in. But I do find that once you take that leap, that level of that huge leap, right? That was a huge leap that I took. And once I took that leap, and I had that faith to trust how it was going to unfold, and I saw how it unfolded and how it just all made sense, in hindsight, looking back, not always easy, but looking back, how it made sense, it makes it easier to take other leaps.
Oh yeah, because once you
Yeah,
it's like you take that leap, you go all in, and like people say there's good experiences and a bad experience, but even a bad experience is a good experience because you learn from it.
absolutely.
And I think there are a lot of people that don't look at it that way. So whenever something happens, what can I get out of it? What lesson can I learn? What can I take? How did I grow from that experience? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, Rob? It's one of those things where it's like, yes, of course, in that moment, it's not to negate the fact that you feel a certain way, or that it's hard or anything like that. It's like you feel the feelings and you honor where you're at in that moment, and you also see the lesson or the opportunity or whatever it is that comes through that.
Awesome. That's beautiful. I love how you said that. It's beautiful. But you said like I just mentioned good experience, bad experiences. You said life experiences. So
Yes.
did you want to share any of that with us?
Yeah. I mean, I could share some of it. How long do we have, Rob?
Not all day, but we have time.
Yeah, so well, I left my job not realizing, first, a few things. The first thing being how burnt out I was. Working in a job in an organization where I didn't feel like I was acknowledged or recognized or rewarded for the work I was doing, although I was very celebrated for the work I was doing, and I knew I was because I kept getting more work. Right? So there was a level of burnout that I had to deal with, which, I don't like, nowadays we have a lot of conversations about what burnout looks like and what it does to a person and how you need to recover from it and all of that. But in addition to that, I met someone that I married. And unfortunately, our relationship did not last very long. And it was a very difficult experience, that was very, started out very promising, and then very quickly turned negative and unhealthy. And I did a lot of learning about myself in that process. I had to learn a lot about, first of all, why did I end up in this situation? Right? What was my role in this situation? How did I contribute to the breakdown in this relationship? What did I need to work on in myself? And one of the biggest pieces that came out for me was, how unhealed trauma plays a part in relationships if we haven't dealt with it. And so this experience with the person I was married to um, led to the triggering of this old trauma that I had experienced when I was much younger. And the direct healing that I ended up doing as a result of that finally freed me from that experience. Now,
Well,
the marriage didn't last, unfortunately. So, like we talked about earlier, it might have been a bad experience, but what did I learn from it? Honestly, I learned so much.
and that's incredible because, like, you use the word trauma. Trauma is a that's a big word, right? That's a like people were thinking trauma, negative, bad, even if it's experience. So, but you had that you use the word unlocked trauma. So when you knew or you realized that you had that unlocked trauma, now it's there. That was, I guess, the launch pad for you to start the healing process.
Yeah, it was absolutely. So, if I can get into more of it if you'd like.
Sure, it's your
Yeah,
call. Yeah.
absolutely. So, when I was 7 years old, a couple days before my 8th birthday, I had gone on a road trip with my parents, our first road trip to New York City from Toronto. And of course, I'm like really excited. I've always seen New York and just been like, oh my God, that's a big city. It's a big apple. Like, what's this all about? Really excited about that. And, we've got a ton of family in New York, by the way. So we were looking forward to seeing them, and they were really looking forward to seeing us too. So we made plans that my dad's cousin was going to have a party. So it's going to start out as a birthday party for his son, and then it's going to turn into a party for all the adults, just enjoying seeing each other and all of that. So we get into New York, we park on the side of the road, right across from my dad's cousin's place. And my dad's cousin sees us from the house, comes out to come see us by the car, doesn't realize that his 3-year-old son is following behind him. And at the same time that his son comes out onto the road, a drunk driver turns the corner.
Mm.
And I won't get into the specifics of it, but obviously it was a fatal accident. And I witnessed this unfolding happen in front of me at 7 years old, a few
Mm.
days before turning 8, right? And that's hugely traumatic to watch the death of a child, another child, right? And I'm a child myself watching it at that
Yeah.
time. And that was my first experience of death, right? And at that time I was like, oh, well, you grow old and then you die, right? And that was completely being that was completely shifting for me to see that it could happen to anyone at any age. And this experience was just so life changing for me. um I watched it all unfold, and it was quite sensationalized as well. Like, it was the front page of the New York Post,
Mm.
with the headline "Too Young to Die" and a full page picture of my cousin. um and then what ended up happening in, like, the direct aftermath of that, like, even the same day, as a 7-year-old, my 7-year-old mind, not knowing how to cope with this situation, this immense situation that's overwhelming, really thought, oh my God, like, if we hadn't come today, he wouldn't have come out of that house, and
Mhm.
he wouldn't have died. And so there was this blame, right? This guilt that arose in me. And I mean, I didn't know at 7 years old how to talk about that. Um, and of course, I didn't realize this until I started having to heal this like 28 years later, right? That I literally put myself in a self-imposed prison that day.
So you buried it.
I buried it. I buried it. And I thought, like, okay, well, now, there's this guilt. So what happens to guilty people? They get punished. Right. So I started looking for all the ways I would get punished. And I thought that it started right away because his funeral happened to be on my 8th birthday.
Oh my gosh.
So on my 8th birthday, I was attending this funeral, and I was like, of course, well, you know. And then it just kept, I guess I unconsciously started looking for ways that I would get punished. Right. Um, and that spanned literally 28 years because I didn't start the healing process until I was 36.
So for 28 years, every time something, let's say negative happened to you, you felt like that was part of your punishment?
Yes. Yeah, I don't
And
even know if I did the math right on that, but it was something like that.
we get the point, right?
Yeah.
And I guess if I can jump in real quick, one of the questions I have, it's amazing to me, and I guess you go either way on this, is like, how does a 7-year-old even think about blaming themselves and think that way? If we wouldn't have come here, if we wouldn't have done this, if we wouldn't have done that, it's like, how does a 7-year-old take on that heavy load of guilt?
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question. I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah,
Right? But I just kind of wanted to make sense of I guess what had happened, right? And like wishing that it wouldn't have happened. Like I think it was more grounded in the wish that this hadn't happened. And well, what did I see as the factor of it happening? I didn't first think like, well, of course the only person responsible for that is the drunk driver,
yeah,
right? So, but I was like, well, if you removed us out of the equation, then he wouldn't have been out on the road to begin with, right? So that
right.
was just a 7-year-old's way of deducting, okay, like deductive reasoning is this is how we come to this conclusion. Um, and then, on top of that, coming from like a family and a culture, my family's Guyanese, Indo-Guyanese background, our culture isn't very emotive or
Okay.
expressive. We didn't talk about these types of hard things. And we're talking about 1990, right? So, we're not necessarily in the realm of like we have, child therapists and a lot of child psychologists. It wasn't something that was very widely available like they are like it's available now, right? So, we came back to Toronto obviously after our trip, and then we never discussed it.
Wow.
And I just kind of moved on with life, but didn't move on with life because I felt such immense guilt and grief around this situation.
So what was it that triggered, or what was the trigger that helped you unlock that
Yeah.
tr or
Yeah.
unlock that or guilt, so to speak, or let it go?
Right. So in the relationship and the marriage that I was in, there were some issues related to alcohol. And every time, there was an experience where the person I was married to was intoxicated,
Yeah,
right? It was like post-traumatic stress getting triggered, right? And
yeah,
I start screaming, and I'm even thinking to myself, like, Fazina, what the heck is going on? This is not you, right? Not
right.
realizing that I'm being triggered into this moment
Wow.
back. Yeah.
And so then I guess the next question is, what was the trigger point or the launch pad to the healing? How did you
Yeah.
begin the healing process?
Okay, so this is interesting because as a coach, I think it's really important for coaches to have coaches because that's how we learn and that's how we grow. And so I was meeting with my coach and for an evening of coaching, and um, it's ironic because on the way to that coaching session, Rob, right? I drive out of my street and there's a bunch of birds like sitting on the street, and I'm driving towards them and I'm like, they tend to move, right? Like they fly away. But for some reason, a couple of them decided that they were just going to stay there. And so I drove over, like not like over the bird, but just over in the area. And I could tell like they were like hitting the car trying to get out of the way. And in my head, I started to feel really guilty. And I was like, whoa, what's this all about? So I'm going to this coaching session with my coach with this feeling already stirred, right? So I meet up with her and I share with her that, this is what happened with these birds. And I'm feeling so guilty and I don't know why. And she's like, that's really interesting, right? Like, where's that coming from? Because, you can, be like, hey, I'm like, I'd never do that again and move on, right? Like, if I see a bunch of birds, I make sure I stop or whatever, right? But there's something coming up. So we start the coaching session and she says to me, there's something blocking you right now. And the irony is, this coach is someone that I used to work with at that organization I left. She used to be the HR director there. So
Okay.
we'd known each other for years, and I had shared with her the story about what had happened with my cousin in New York. So out of nowhere, she says to me, Fazina, like, I don't know, but I'm getting the sense this has to do something with that cousin, the cousin that you told me about in New York. And literally, that's all she said and all I needed for everything to turn and surface. And all of a sudden, I was there.
You were
And
there. What do you mean you were there? All of a sudden you
I
were
was
there.
there. I was there. I was like in that moment again. And I'd realized not only was I there in that moment, but in a moment, in the present moment, realizing that I need to deal with this. I've never dealt with it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was really hard. Um, because anybody would tell you who's had post-traumatic stress, when that moves into the surface, like you just are in a level of panic that you don't have control over, right? So I knew that, like, the next day I started Googling therapists who were specializing in trauma.
Okay.
And I was like, I need to find somebody, I need to deal with this now, because I've clearly been holding on to this for how many decades, and it's playing a part in my marriage, and it's blocked me my entire life. Like, I literally would self-sabotage myself
Yeah.
to punish myself, right? And the irony is when we got married, I picked the wedding date. You want to make a guess what date I picked?
The date of
Yeah,
your cousin's death.
the anniversary of it,
Yeah.
because I couldn't allow myself to be happy. I needed to be punished.
That's
Like, this
what you
is
just said there is profound. But God, I'm sorry. I'll
yeah,
follow.
like this I believed that I needed to be, so I couldn't even allow myself to be ecstatically happy on my wedding day, because I believed in that, putting myself in that self-imposed prison that I did back in 1990. I believed I needed to punish myself and I couldn't be happy. And so it was all bubbling from that point, right? And this was the climax of, like, it's Fazeena, you need to deal with this. So are you going to deal with it? And that was my choice. And I chose to deal with it. I didn't know. Again, it was another point of faith, right? Like, you got to take a leap now. So this is the next leap I take, and it was really painful, going through the healing journey of that, because the types of therapies that exist around that is really like exposing yourself back to that experience, and having to recall that week after week as I go through this trauma therapy, right?
Mhm.
Um, but what was interesting was that I had already started my business, and there's a particular coaching training that I'd long kind of wanted to take. And I don't know if you know neurolinguistic programming, NLP. Um,
Yes, I'm
you
familiar
know,
with it.
yeah. So there's I didn't realize how vast it was. Like, there's I mean, obviously you could look it up, and there's some really not so great ways of using it. That you can also use fire for bad things, but it can also be used for good things, right?
Right, exactly.
So I was signing. I wanted to sign up for NLP training, and I had already, like, a month before this surfaced, right? And I was having this training done in September. So this all surfaced in July of 2018. And I was doing my training for NLP in September 2018. And I thought I should let the the program facilitators know what's going on, because obviously it's got a lot going on, mentally and emotionally, that might have an impact on this training for myself. So I send a note to the leader of the program, and I say, hey, this is what's going on. I've had this trauma come up. I'm going into, these episodes of post-traumatic stress. Um, I don't know if this is going to be too much for me to take this training, but I'm leave it up to you to let me know if you think I should hold back or move forward. And I get a reply from him, um, not long after I sent him the email. And he says to me, Fazeena, we have tools that can deal with this within minutes. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with this man? Like, how in the world is he going to deal with this in minutes? Like, I've had this for 20 something years. Like, this is insane, you know? And anyway, I say, okay. And he's like, well, just so you know, like, if you need to deal with this right now, immediately, I can give you the name of someone. You could call them, you can take care of it. Right. And or you can wait until the training happens, And then I'll make sure, like, I give you my promise that we'll either take care of it as a, if you're willing to be a demo at the front of the room, we'll do it then, or we'll do it, at a break or something like that. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll just wait. I mean, I've waited this long anyway. So I'll just wait until the training, which was only like 2 weeks away.
Right.
So, we're on day 3 of the training, and there's an opportunity to be a demo for a particular modality in NLP. So I put my hand up and I volunteer, and they ask me a couple of questions, but that starts to trigger post-traumatic stress. So they call me to the front of the room, and they use a specific modality on me called the phobia release model.
Can you repeat that? What's it called again?
It's called the phobia release model.
Okay.
Right. And like, they put me through this model, which, I'm being trained on as well. Right. And I kid you not, Rob, like within 20 minutes, the electrical emotional charge that I had to this situation was literally gone.
That's
Like,
amazing.
I know it sounds like outlandish, but like this was my experience. And it was gone. And I kept searching for it because I couldn't believe that it was gone and I couldn't find it anymore.
So you were looking for that pain to come back?
I was looking for it to come back. So it's not like it erased my memory, anything like that. Like, I still had a memory of the event,
Right.
but it's sort of, it was a way to dissociate me from the experience. Right. So I was literally imagining myself in the picture of this, but like stepping out of the picture of it. And it's just the way that it was, the way that the script is used of the modality, it literally took me out of it, and the emotional charge was gone.
So you were able to detach yourself from it.
I was able to detach myself from it. So now I speak about it and I don't feel that emotional charge anymore.
You don't feel the negative emotional charge anymore.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is amazing. And so I'm sure I'm going to ask you, was the thought there, oh my God, I went 28 years and I could have had this done in 20 minutes years ago?
Yeah, absolutely. Right. But at the same time, it was also like, I could see why all the things happened the way that they did.
Then that's good. That's good because it all stemmed from you running, not like over the birds.
Yes.
Right. And,
Yes.
and that's what I guess the trigger to the release point was.
Right. So it was at the surface and it was ready to go. Like, this was
Yeah.
the right time for it to go, because I had talked about this experience many times before, but the emotions were not at the surface level that they needed to be for me to release them.
So,
So,
God, I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I was going to say, so how does a person what would you recommend to somebody? Like, say somebody else had something traumatic happen when
Yeah.
they were young. They're in a self-imposed prison. It was by happenstance. It's the bird experience, and then all of a sudden the emotions start coming up. So how does one look for that trigger to get out of jail, so to speak?
Yeah.
Where's the awareness there?
So in terms of like when you use the modality, or just in general, like how do you see that you need to come out of this space?
Well, like, yeah, for instance, somebody has a traumatic event, and
Yeah.
something else happens, they might not know. Okay, you used NLP. That helped you out.
Yeah.
But how do you recognize that there's something that comes to the surface? Like, these birds brought it to the surface. How
Yeah.
do I know that a specific incident is going to bring something to the surface? How do I know to look for that?
I don't even know how to explain that, because I feel like it was just God,
Okay.
right? Like, it was just this guidance of like these events that sort of just kind of set off and made sense,
Yeah.
right? And so I feel like that was my initial way of understanding how trauma can get triggered and surfaces for healing. And once that happened, there's other things that I've experienced in life, that not were not as traumatic as that.
Right.
But I might have an experience that raises or triggers or activates that experience, and now I can recognize it because I've been through that initial event, right? But
Yeah.
the initial event of it was like, it was God.
Is that part of what you coach on?
If that is what somebody, if that's their faith, absolutely, right? Like I will help them to see that, right? Because it's how they view the world and their experience.
And do you use the NLP to help them see that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
good, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's like that's what I'm thinking. Like, how can somebody help me see that? Right?
Yeah. 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 And I mean, at the same time, it's always I like when I work with my clients, I'm always meeting them in their model of the world and their frame of reference, right? It's not about me imposing my model of the world on them, right? Because, I'm really there to serve them and help them in it be of greatest service to where they're at and where they want to go.
So how freeing was that when in the 20 minutes it was gone? Like, what was the
Oh my goodness. I can't even, the best way for me to describe it is that I don't think I had experienced joy for all of those years. And it was just at that moment of like peace. I felt so much gratitude and joy.
yeah.
Like there was a stillness within me that I don't know that I had ever experienced in my life before.
Yeah, that's great to say that. I guess I'm sitting there thinking as you're talking, is it a choice? Like you might have not thought you had a choice because you had that self-imposed prison.
Hmm.
So is it a choice maybe that, hey, I want to get out of prison? Or how do you know, right? How do you know that I'm not supposed to be locking myself in prison anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I do believe it was a choice. Like I didn't have to call therapist the next day,
Okay.
right? But I knew that I was not willing to allow myself to continue feeling like this because I knew. Well, I think the bigger piece for me was the fact that I knew that my reactions were creating issues in the marriage. And
Okay.
I wanted to take responsibility for my own healing as my own part in the relationship going wrong, right? And I felt that if I could at least address my part of this and do the healing of my part of this, then I was hoping that that would help the relationship heal
Yeah.
and it would save the marriage, right? Obviously, like you need two people to do the work,
Of
right?
course.
And unfortunately, that didn't happen, right? And so we didn't last, um, and that was really hard,
Yeah.
right? Because that's a whole other experience of going through a divorce and of grieving something that you thought was, someone you thought was your partner for the rest of your life and the life you're going to live together and, the hopes that you had and all of that. Right. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. You're reminding me of a friend of mine who I interviewed on his podcast. His name's Tommy Breedlove. He wrote the book Legendary, and he talks about you have to be willing to participate in your own rescue.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Fulfillment statement, right?
Yes.
And then I think that's the choice that I want to participate in my own rescue because let's face it, we all have some kind of issue going on, right? So at some point in our lives, and are we the victim or are we the victor, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and that's really really. I mean, thank you for sharing that because I know it's been traumatic for, but like you said, you don't feel that emotion anymore, that real that
No.
negative energy, and I assume that you're able to help so many people now either recognize it or get through it. Is that a correct statement?
Yes. Yes. I mean, just sharing my story in itself. And it's funny, you asked me the question, like, how do I help people to even recognize this? I tell them my story.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh my goodness, like this thing happened when I was much younger and I didn't realize. And now I'm putting two and two together and this is making sense.
Yeah.
Right? So the healing happens for me in telling the story, but it helps to facilitate something for somebody. If it does that, like I'm happy, right? Like I'm grateful because I know that it's me telling the story is in service of other
Yeah.
people.
You make me think of something else. Like knowledge is part of the healing. Just having knowledge,
Yes, absolutely.
because I think so many people are looking for an antidote. They're looking for did I say that right? An antidote, a medication, whatever,
Yeah.
to fix a problem. But it's just being aware that you aren't at fault. It's not your. It's what happened, and we whether it's something traumatic like that or something else, a lot of people like are so hard on themselves and they ride this guilt trip for so long. And like I'm hard on myself. I used to like hold myself back for months, and then it was weeks, and then it was days, and now it's a few minutes, right?
Yeah.
And you let it go because it's like how long do you feel like you have to like keep yourself in that self-imposed prison? And we don't have to. We're not supposed to, but we choose to.
Yes, absolutely.
So I guess the key is to want to choose to be free, right?
You got to choose to be free, and you got to choose to see your own value and your own worth,
Oh,
and to know that you are meant to be free, right? We are all worthy of forgiveness, which mostly needs to come from ourselves,
yeah.
to ourselves,
Yeah. Because
right?
everybody thinks I got to forgive somebody. And how many people think about forgiving themselves?
Yeah. You're not fully free until you forgive yourself.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
That is really powerful. So obviously you've been chiseled along the way, a pun
Oh yeah.
intended, right? You've been chiseled along the way. I always ask this question, how much more chiseling do you think you got to go to get to that fullest potential that Fazeena is or supposed to be?
You know what? The chiseling is an ongoing experience, right? I find that there's always more layers of discovery and growth. Does growth ever end? I don't think it does.
Yeah.
And so I've chosen to be a student of life, you know, and in that means that I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly chiseling, and not from a perspective of there's anything wrong with me. It is about looking for the opportunities to learn and grow and to do better and be better.
If you're not
And
growing,
and
you're dying, right?
yeah, and also to spread that impact in my community, right? And in my part of the world. I don't need to be the president or the prime minister or whatever, right? Like I can just create change and impact where I am.
And in making that choice, it's a choice to love and accept yourself.
100%.
And the forgiveness plays into that.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
I mean, just that's amazing. And just people hearing this people should be able to hear this conversation, your story. And my hope is that they'll look to love, accept themselves, and forgive themselves for whatever part they had. And that's
Yes.
just powerful in and of itself.
Yes, absolutely.
So
It's
you
beautiful.
help somebody today. I guarantee you help somebody.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Fazeena, if this has been great, if somebody wanted to connect with you to share their story, or maybe even hire you as a coach, whatever, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. Well, you can find me on my website, which is theconsciouscommunicator.ca. I'm also on Instagram at the Conscious Communicator. Yeah, I'm also launching my own podcast soon, and the healing leadership brand that I've created. So look out for that as well.
Do you have a title for it? Is it Healing Leadership or what's the?
The Healing Leadership podcast.
Wow, that is
Yeah,
great. That is
yeah,
great. I can't wait to hear that one.
I'm excited.
Well, awesome. Fazeena, it's been awesome having you here today. I'm really appreciative of your time, appreciative of your story and your willingness to be transparent and share that all. It's been awesome. So I'm going to be more grateful for you.
Thank you so much, Rob. It's been an honor. I'm really glad that we connected and we had this opportunity to chat.
And we got to give Jeff Wu a shout out for introducing us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jeff.
There you go. And I'll let him know we spoke. But look, until next time, everybody, let's go get chiseled.